I have never seen a video nasty. I wouldn't.
How can you judge on a video nasty?
Oh,
Have you never
easy.
seen one?
Well, stuff like zombie flesh eaters
that's
and all that
good.
sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
nah, they're stupid. They're not realistic, are they?
An extravaganza of gory violence capable of depraving and corrupting those who watched it.
These films not only affect young people, but I believe they affect dogs as well.
It's useless to try and explain it to you. You wouldn't understand. It all seems so absurd. So fantastic.
The iris is the flower that will mean the end of it.
Video nasties, or as we call them, videos, with a choice as a grown-up whether you wanted to watch them or not. Now that was a time here in the UK. In the early 80s, some uncultured killjoy decided we weren't mature enough to make our own decisions on our viewing preferences. As a result, not only were many great and now classic titles removed from video shops, the shop owners themselves could actually be prosecuted for having them on their shelves. The term itself, which even sounds like you're being chastised by the headmistress, was made popular by the National Viewers and Listeners Association, the association themselves forgetting that we are the national viewers and listeners. Founded by Mary Whitehouse in the 1960s, the cult vehemently campaigned for what they considered more wholesome family viewing for all. Concerned in the early days with the likes of Doctor Who and Benny Hill. No, seriously. By the arrival of video stores the next decade, they were positively champing at the bit to tell people what they could and couldn't watch in the privacy of their own homes. A loophole in the law meant video titles weren't necessarily subject to review by the British Board of Film Classification. So by the time an influx of low-budget, bloody schlock horror imported from Europe and the US were hitting the shelves unfiltered, it was a little bit late to shut the floodgates. And honestly, I do understand the concern with titles such as Cannibal Holocaust and Last House on the Left. These were like nothing seen before and intentionally gratuitous, disturbing and graphic. Certainly not without merit, however, as so many of these titles laid the groundwork for much of modern horror cinema today. The real trouble started when video rental stores were being raided willy-nilly by a horde of clueless meatheads with no idea which titles to target. Therefore, vendors were on tenterhooks, wondering if they'd have to endure a week in court arguing the positive attributes of I sit in your gravy. Sorry, I just made that up for a laugh.
I knew you'd come. You want to kill me? You want to kill Elena Marcus?
Then it started turning into a complete paranoid frenzy with some highly respected classics coming under fire. Most notably Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead. And some incredibly well-crafted films by Dario Argento. His visually beautiful horror mystery Inferno being one such title. Part of Argento's Three Mothers trilogy, they must have searched hard through the almost 2 hours of its play length to find those 2 or 3 minutes of glorious kills amongst the bewitching colours and slow burn intrigue. Equally my favourite film by Argento, not discounting our main feature, the Giallo classic Tenebrae. Sure, there's some truly gnarly deaths here, but of course there is. It's Dario doing what he does best and on top form with it. A fantastic Italo-style soundtrack, John Saxon, stylish ladies with wet hair screaming and lots of breaking glass and flying steel. It's joyous. Which brings us neatly to... without doubt one of my favourite horror movies of all time. Suspiria is a disjointed psychedelic fever dream that often makes little sense. But that barely matters, because for me, the story is there simply as a vehicle for the astonishing visuals on display. A collection of perfect, magnificent set pieces, each one as beautifully unique as the last. And all of this set to the once heard, never forgotten soundtrack by Italian prog rock band Goblin. There's almost nothing I could say about Suspiria that hasn't already been said by someone, somewhere, so instead I'll give you my own psychedelic experience of it. I've been pretty much obsessed with films since I was very young. If I was good and sat quietly, I was allowed to stay up later of a weekend and watch the more grown-up films, as long as they weren't too grown-up. I'd regularly waste my pocket money, as I was often told, on the movie and video magazines each month just to keep up with the new releases. So imagine my absolute glee when in the early 80s a video rental store opened up at the local shops. Luckily for me, the family that ran the place knew me very well, from popping in on the way back from school to buy a bag of penny sweets or snacks. I should mention it doubled up as a general store and off-licence. That's liquor store to our American friends. All essentials covered there, I think. Knowing me so well and my love of movies, they didn't mind too much if I wanted to rent a title above my age restriction. For a mates-over afternoon, this was great, as we could watch a bawdy comedy like Animal House or Kentucky Fried Movie.
Christ, did a cow shit in here?
Or our favourite was often a great horror too scary for TV at the time. Anything that could hold the attention of 5 rowdy teenagers fitted the bill. And so the pure elation of popping in one Saturday afternoon and finding in the new releases the dark, fabled menace I'd known the infamy of since the age of 10, when I spotted the poster at a local flea pit cinema. They had Suspiria, so Suspiria it had to be. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, for the first 14 minutes, these 5 rowdy teenagers didn't speak once.
We saw behind the door! 3 irises! Turn the blue one!
With the jarring contrast of a screeching crescendo of strings and music box bells, we're told of Susie Banion's intentions over the opening credits.
Susie Banion decided to perfect her ballet studies in the most famous school of dance in Europe. She left Kennedy Airport, New York, and arrived in Germany at 10:40 p.m. local time.
And then there's an instant disconcertion as Susie makes her way to the airport exit. Something feels off already. Before out into the torrent of a Friedberg night. She'd like a taxi to the ballet school, her new home for the coming months. Travelling there, everything seems foreboding, menacing somehow. As the cab pulls up at the school, a girl exits. She seems panicked and desperate. She's shouting something, but Susie can't quite make it out. And then she runs off into the deluge. Susie tries to gain entry, but the voice on the intercom seems confused.
I don't know you. Go away. Just let me in and I'll explain. Go away. Go away.
So with no other choice, she returns to the taxi and departs. But as they pass the woods, Susie spots the same girl running and stumbling through the trees. With nowhere to go, the girl arrives back at the school. This is Pat. She's invited to remain, but insists she'll be leaving in the morning. She knows something. Too much, maybe.
It's useless to try and explain it to you. You wouldn't understand.
She retires to the bathroom to dry off.
It was just the wind.
But the wind is the last of her worries, as viewers are about to witness one of the most gloriously brutal murders ever committed to film. So beautiful, in fact, it's hard to look away. A bewitching dance of death all on its own, perhaps. I would normally give you a continuation of the story here, but honestly, it really doesn't matter. There's unsettling characters, a strange brew of some dubbed dialogue, and some, such as Jessica Harper as Susie, obviously not. There's a wonderfully over-the-top performance by Alida Valli as the cantankerous dance teacher, and an intriguing, though a little clunky exposition.
I have known some women who are said to be witches.
Really?
Some interactions might come over as a little odd, but this is likely because Argento originally intended it for much younger actors. Of course, the explicit violence on display here rendering that impossible. But none of this matters, because all of it is there just like the walls in an art gallery, waiting for the next grisly masterpiece moment to hang there and be pondered over for the next 50 years. Amongst the other wonders on display here, we have a plague of maggots raining into the dorms, a bonkers brutal dog attack. There's this, pits of razor wire, and a cackling animated corpse, all shot like fine art and accompanied by the unforgettable music score from electro rock band Goblin. On repeated viewing too, you might even spot some little Easter eggs in there for Argento lovers. For example, when Susie enters the Grand Witch's chamber in the finale, there's a bird with crystal plumage on the dresser, likely a nod to his 1970s mystery slasher of the same name. Is this strictly Giallo? Giallo being a genre of filmmaking specifically from Italy, combining mystery and avant-garde kills in equal measure. As the genre moved into the 70s, it honed into incredibly slick slasher form, with invariably beautiful women in peril from a sadistic, inventive killer. So in that way, despite its supernatural theme, Suspiria is absolutely Giallo. It's Giallo with knobs and bells on. Personally, if I hear the word, I automatically think of wet hair, glass and steel, all of which is here, like a beautiful ballet of butchery. But just taking us back to where we began, this, and this somehow managed to slip through the grubby fingers of the National Viewers and Listeners Association unscathed. Possibly because they read the word ballet on the back cover and thought, well, that's their Sunday night TV with an Ovaltine and some buttered malt loaf, all the while secretly playing Spot the Camel Toe. All wholesome stuff. Before I wind up, I'd just like to dedicate this one to my dad, because ever since I started the channel, he's been asking when I'm going to do that one with the girls' school and the pit of wire. I assumed he didn't mean the prime of Miss Jean Brodie. And finally, it would mean the world to me to reach 500 subscribers by Easter. If you could see your way to hitting that subscribe button, it's free and would help us out so much. Until the next one, guys.
But how do we know? Sorry, how do we know? Sort of talking to people over 60 about whether they masturbate or not.